Hello, this is Robin and Meredith. You're watching BBC School Report at 9.
Now we have Dom and Josh talking about food banks and poverty.
Hello and welcome to BBC News with Dom and Josh. Our main story, child poverty.
Child poverty is a huge concern in today's world. It is growing extremely rapidly across our globe, with thousands of unlucky children suffering from child poverty.
We tend to forget that it's happening where we live in the UK, but in fact it is happening all around us.
However, there is a small solution to this problem which decreases child poverty. The answer is food banks. This organisation ensures that families which can't afford food can get food due to the generous donations made.
But they need more donations. If you were to donate a tin of soup which costs no more than £2, you are giving a small vulnerable child a meal which they can enjoy.
There are currently 420 food banks in operation across our country. The organisations in charge of the food banks are constantly pushing the government to add extra resources, food and funds to the purposeful project.
Here are some alarming statistics based on child poverty. 3.5 million children in the UK are living in poverty.
Also, 50 to 70% of children are growing up in poverty. This figure must be reduced because, in my opinion, every child deserves a happy and memorable childhood.
We had an interview with ex-social worker Ian Hollywood. He told Christleton High School news team that a particular incident which really upset me was on Christmas Eve. I was called to a family and in my house I was all ready for Christmas, with decorations around the house. However, in this house I was completely upside down. It was also very dirty. I thought that this child wasn't going to have the same Christmas as my family.
There are many charities which support child poverty, for example Dr. Bernardo's and UNICEF. If you were to donate old clothes or accessories, then you may be making a huge difference to a child's life.
This is BBC School Report
with Dom and Josh.
Here's a film about GCSE changes in England with an interview from Mr Simpson.
Hello, and I'm Aaron, and I'm here today with Mr Simpson from the Head of English at Christleton High School. He is here with me to discuss the GCSE changes that are happening for the current Year 9s, who will be the first to undergo the changes when they go into Year 10. He is here to speak about his opinion on the changes and what he knows so far. So Mr Simpson, what exactly are your views on the changes in the GCSEs?
Well, it's a really huge change nationally for every school. And I think the biggest change in secondary education for the best part of 20 or 30 years. So it's going to be a massive transitional phase for all schools nationally.
So are you happy with what you have heard about the changes?
Well, like any educational initiative, there are pros and cons, positives and negatives. The total removal of controlled assessment, some pupils might see as a negative because they prefer that method of being assessed continually rather than everything hinging on a final exam. The flip side to that is, with the new system of grading and assessment, the pupil who works really, really hard to achieve, say, a grade 3, which might be the equivalent of a D or an E, gets just as much credit as the pupil who's working to achieve a 9, which would be the equivalent of a top A star. So that is a real positive as far as I'm concerned.
Aaron is now reporting about the Lizard Squad hacking at Christmas.
As you know, every single day, thousands of people are cyberbullied over messages and calls. The average amount of cyberbullying has increased exponentially since online networks such as Instagram, Snapchat and Facebook have been created. Cyberbullying is shown in many different ways. Recently, during the Christmas period, a hacker group called Lizard Squad decided to hack PSN and Xbox Live with a DDoS attack, which is overloading a system server. This affected millions of people around the world who rely on PSN and Xbox Live to have a fun time during Christmas. Apparently, Lizard Squad hacked the PSN and Xbox Live network because they wanted teenagers to spend time with their family instead of wasting away their lives on a video game. However, an acclaimed member of the Lizard Squad, who calls himself Member 2, claimed that they hacked Sony and Microsoft to show the world how terrible their system defences were, as millions of people worldwide were paying for their systems. On the bright side of this story, shortly after the attacks, another hacker group that goes by the name of Anonymous were on the People's side and leaked where some of the Lizard Squad members were located, and they told the FBI of their locations. This led to many arrests on the members of the Lizard Squad over the weeks ahead of Christmas hackings. After these arrests, we believe only 2 members remain and have stopped the hacking spree as far as we know. There are still many hacking groups out there, but this scales to the biggest hacking attack on large-scale companies in history. Lizard Squad have cemented their name in cybernetic history books from this attack.
With the forthcoming solar eclipse, Robin and Joe interviewed Miss Sullivan about the possible dangers.
This is Robin and Joe, and we'll be talking about the upcoming solar eclipse.
On March 20th, 2015, a partial solar eclipse will be visible for 2 hours. Best guesses predict that people will have an opportunity to see up to 90% of the sun covered. The last solar eclipse was observed at length for 16 years ago. However, the event will only last for roughly 2 hours. 16 years is an extraordinary length of time to wander and wait for only a 2-hour event, and the worth of this time to some people is immense. Countless people will trawl the length of the world, coming from all over to simply observe this rare alignment of the cosmos.
There are many solar enthusiasts scattered throughout society, and this event is stirring many people worldwide. Our own schools have organised to view the solar eclipse primarily via Miss Sullivan, and to ensure that the school will hold it as a memorable moment.
We are now going to ask a few questions to Miss Sullivan, pondering about the solar eclipse. Are the rumours true that solar eclipses can cause global warming?
Well, yes and no, really. I've done a little bit of research looking at why global warming might be attributed to the solar eclipse. Neil Armstrong, when he visited the moon, left a big mirror actually on top of the moon, and the light that travels from the moon to the Earth, you can calculate the distance. And when you moderate sea temperatures and currents to do with global warming, so they look at that as a contributing factor. What they've noticed is that actually the moon is getting further away from the sun every year, about 4 centimetres. So as it pulls further away, the actual alignment between the moon going in front of the sun will only happen for a certain period of time. At some point, the moon will be too far away for the sun, for it to cover the sun completely. So that has another effect, which is that it will change the currents and tides here on Earth. And then if they are changing, that could attribute to some kind of climate change. It will change some patterns in weather. So we don't know for sure, but there are some theories out there that kind of may allude to that fact, definitely.
When was the last solar eclipse?
The last solar eclipse was on the 11th of August 1999. So yeah, like you said, 16 years ago.
Have you ever witnessed a solar eclipse in your life?
Unfortunately not. I was 16 at the time, but it wasn't publicised as what it is now. And it would have been in the middle of summer for me, but we were not aware that it was happening as much as what we have now. So unfortunately I didn't. So actually this will be my first, as well as probably for you as well.
How much of an opportunity would you say this eclipse will be for our school?
Well, I think it's a massive opportunity. It's the only time you will see solar flares that surround the outer surface of the sun. So on a daily basis you see the sun as this circle in the sky, but actually you cannot see the flares that come out from it. That actually contribute then to the northern lights, and there's a big, and the minute tonight there will be a big viewing of the northern lights because of the projection of the solar flares that come from the surface of the sun that interact then with the magnetic field. So in terms of what you're able to see, this is really very, very rare. So the next one won't be until 2026, another 10 years away, and who knows when we will be.
What value does this solar eclipse hold to enthusiasts?
Well, a massive amount actually. The coverage is unprecedented. Last night they spent an hour and a half on primetime TV. There's lots of cosmologists and astronomical enthusiasts who are really encouraged and really excited by what's going to happen on Friday. So people do spend an awful lot of money travelling to the points on the Earth where you can actually get as much of a coverage of the sun as possible. So some people really value it massively, and so do I.
Do you think, in your opinion, would you say that the solar eclipse is a good thing to see, or is it a necessity?
Okay, I think here in school it's a privilege. We don't need to go and see it. It's not a necessity as such, but it is something that we should embrace, and we are lucky enough to live and work in a school and be a part of a school community where they do encourage you to take hold of once in a lifetime opportunity. So I think it's only our duty really. If we can make that happen, then you should be allowed to go and see it. Absolutely.
How excited are you regarding the solar eclipse?
Very, but nervous. Nervous because of the weather coverage, and we can't control the weather. So the cloud that's kind of predicted for the morning is a bit hit and miss at the moment, but hopefully at 9:32 it will be clear enough for us to see. So fingers crossed.
Okay, thank you for your time answering these questions and covering the solar eclipse.
You're very welcome.
Back to the studio. Meredith and Taryn have now a report on plastic surgery in the media and the way it affects people.
And welcome to BC School Report. I'm Taryn.
And I'm Meredith, and today we'll be discussing the effect that plastic surgery in the media has on the way people want to look.
25-year-old Brazilian man, formerly Max, now Sanishi, spent $3,100 to undergo 10 plastic surgeries to look like a K-pop star. He was inspired after spending a year in South Korea as a student. He also has a love for Korean soap operas and K-pop. South Korea has the highest rates of plastic surgery in the world, Brazil close behind at 4. Sam plans on moving to Korea as soon as possible.
So what is K-pop? It's the Korean pop music which is now becoming more popular all over the world. Popular K-pop bands include Big Bang, Girls' Generation and Super Junior. Bands often consist of many members, some with over 10. Girls are usually dressed in kawaii, meaning cute clothes, and bands altogether have some kind of theme, uniform or colour scheme.
But these super cute groups of people might not be the best role models. Many Asian children have had surgery to make their eyes bigger, alter their face shapes and lighten their skin, and to give them the tiny nose they all want. A popular reality TV show in Korea is called Let Me In. Contestants share their story of being bullied because of their looks or imperfections, and an expert team of surgeons try to correct them. The new look is then revealed as they show it off down a catwalk in front of a live audience.
The most popular surgeries in Korea are adding a double lid and lengthening and thinning the nose. So many people ask for these that they are normally called the basics. The main aim of the surgery is to look more Western, and it's not just adults that have these surgeries. It's not uncommon for high school girls to alter their features. It's believed that the younger you have the surgery, the more natural it looks.
We interviewed a representative from Alex D. Cardiff's Plastic Surgery to ask them some questions about their views. They said that it's not all plastic surgeries do alterations to look like a different race, and that they could refuse plastic surgery to someone they think is not suitable in any way. She also explained to us the difference between cosmetic and plastic surgery. Cosmetic surgery is facial reconstruction for people with deformities or burns to give them a normal-looking face. Examples of plastic surgery are facelifts or implants, to make someone look the way they want to look, without needing as much as someone who actually has cosmetic surgery.
People who are popular in the media with plastic surgery can be a negative influence, especially for children who think that it's normal to look the way people do after surgery. Currently, it is not too popular in the UK, but if it becomes more well known, then we could see people with huge amounts of plastic surgery walking around the street. Our children will look up to people who are 90% plastic, but the media puts across that the plastic surgery is always a bad thing, whereas we know that it can be good in certain cases, such as Katie Piper's story. A model at the time, her boyfriend threw acid over her, leaving her badly burnt. She had plastic surgery to reconstruct her face and now runs a charity helping people with burns. You can visit the website at www.katiepiperfoundation.org.
Thank you for watching. Back to the studio.
With the Malaysia MH370 still missing and many other disasters last year, Fiona reports on whether 2014 was the worst year for aviation.
Over 1,000 have been killed or are missing around the world today after 6 air disasters last year. The first happened on March the 8th when a Malaysian airline flight disappears en route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. There is still no confirmed wreckage of the plane today, and the fate of the 239 on board is still unknown. On July the 14th, a Ukrainian army transporter is shot down on approach to Luhansk airport. All 49 people on board died, and the Ukrainian military forces are fighting pro-Russian militants at the time. Could this be the reason that the plane was shot down? Another Malaysian airline flight is shot down over Ukraine on the 17th of July, and the crash is blamed on the pro-Russian militants, and the West accuses Russia of having a role in the plane's downing. A Taiwan's Trans-Asia Airways flight crashes on its second attempt to land. Of the 58 on board, only 10 survive. After encountering rough weather, the Air Algerie flight crashes in Mali, killing all 116 people on board. The last crash of 2014 was the Air Asia flight that disappeared after losing contact with air traffic control on the way from Surabaya to Singapore on the 20th of December. There were 162 people on board. We interviewed Ian Morrison, who works as a pilot for Virgin Atlantic. As part of my BBC News investigation on aviation last year, I would like to introduce Ian Morrison, who is a pilot for Virgin Atlantic. Hello.
Hello, Fiona.
Do you agree with the statement that 2014 was the worst aviation year ever in history?
Well, there were two serious aviation incidents in 2014, both of them involving Malaysian Airlines. The first was the Flight 307, which went missing en route to Beijing, and the second was the aircraft which was brought down over the Ukraine. Both of these were extraordinary events, very newsworthy, and as a result remained in the media for a very long time, which created a certain impression. Now that impression, I feel, is misleading because aviation remains an incredibly safe form of transport. Any statistic, of course, depends upon what it is measured against, and so as to whether you can say that 2014 was the worst aviation year ever, I genuinely do not know.
And do you feel safe doing your job after 2014?
Absolutely, yes. Virgin Atlantic has the highest safety standards, and everybody involved is incredibly well trained to deal with difficult situations.
Have you ever been in a position of danger when flying?
Never felt I've been in a position of danger. However, there have been times when we've had to use our training to deal with certain situations. I recall once when I was flying for a previous airline, we suffered a bird strike just as we were getting airborne from Tunisia. Now the aircraft flew absolutely normally until for 2.5 hours, until we were just about to start our descent into Manchester, when one of the engines started to vibrate at a level above that which we would normally expect. Now, that caused us to have to reduce the power on that engine to bring the vibrations down to a normal level, and so we effectively flew the approach with one engine at a reduced power level. The aircraft flew absolutely perfectly normally. It was a situation for which we had trained many times, and in the end it was a complete non-event.
And how high is the chance of an accident on board the plane?
The chances of an accident on board an aircraft are very, very small indeed. And in fact, if you are going flying, then by far the most dangerous part of your day is the drive to the airport.
And are airlines doing everything to make your job and experience safer?
Absolutely yes, and in fact everybody concerned with aviation, from airlines to air traffic controllers to airport authorities to aircraft manufacturers, they make safety their absolute #1 priority.
Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome.
2015, a new year for aviation. However, at the beginning of the year, a Trans-Asia plane crashes into a river minutes after takeoff. It is led to believe that the engine stopped functioning. After this disaster, could 2015 end up like 2014, or could it be even worse? Back to the studio.
Robin and Joe report on the dangers of cyberbullying and whether it can be stopped.
Hello, this is Robin and Joe here, and we're going to talk about the increasing problem in cyberbullying.
Well, as you can tell, cyberbullying has become a common issue in many schools across Britain.
24% of students aged between 8 and 16 have said that they've been cyberbullied at least once in their life.
12% of cyberbullying victims have considered suicide and self-harm, and 2% of victims have actually considered these horrible acts.
Many schools say that cyberbullying should be dealt with at home because this is where it happens mostly. But schools have been reported many times as being not thorough in the checking for cyberbullying and barely reliable.
As you can see from the table, a large amount of people would describe cyberbullying as bad, but the results of cyberbullying to the trained eye are much worse than bad. Cyberbullying ruins lives. It is indiscriminate, inescapable and cataclysmic.
Cyberbullying is a very serious problem in the modern world, and hundreds of people have their lives filled with misery by these vile and sneaky forms of bullying. One of the most dangerous facts about these sneaky attacks is its ability to go unchecked, ruining lives without showing its face. This following survey shows what percentage of 100 people have their opinions on the severity of cyberbullying.
Our goal is to reduce cyberbullying to as far a degree as is physically possible. Some say that cyberbullying will never be gone and will always linger, but how could they know this to be the possibility if they will not even attempt to prevent it? Until everyone is fully aware of the dangers, nothing can possibly change.
This is Robin and Joe here, back to the studio.
Tom now has an interview with the Year 7 girls football stars and how they became second in the national final.
Okay, so what was the main reason for your success in the tournament?
We worked together as a team and we communicated well.
Okay, and who would you give girl of the tournament to and why?
Hannah. Because she's a great individual player and she kept the team together.
And who would you give goal of the tournament to?
Maisie.
And why?
Because she did a really good volley. And it required a lot of skill.
Okay, and do you think you could win the tournament next time?
Yes, because we've got more experience now. And we kind of knew what we're doing because we've been
That's all from BBC School Report at Christleton High.
Thank you for watching and good night.